We've all got those parts of our house where the internet just won't go. Well, if you had wall-to-wall Wi-Fi from Xfinity, you could worry less about dead spots. Because with wall-to-wall Wi-Fi from Xfinity, you get fast speeds, reliable connection in every room, and power for all your devices even when everyone's online. That's wall-to-wall Wi-Fi, only on the Xfinity 10G network. Restrictions apply. Not available in all areas. Actual speeds vary.
If you're an athlete, you know the greatest motivator of all is the fear of letting your teammates down. After all, a team is only as good as its weakest link. So you owe it to those wearing the same jersey as you to be your best every time you step on the field. That's why there's no vape in team. When you vape, you can expose your lungs to toxic chemicals that can damage your lungs. If you're a step behind, the team's a step behind. Brought to you by The Real Cost and the FDA.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
Welcome to the AI Hustle Podcast, the podcast where we break down the latest in AI news, tools, and interview experts helping you hustle and do more using AI. If you've been following the podcast for a while, you'll know that over the last 6 months, I've been working on a stealth AI startup. Of the hundreds of projects I've covered, this is the one that I believe has the greatest potential. So today I'm excited to announce AI Box. AI Box is a no-code AI app building platform paired with the App Store for AI that lets you monetize your AI tools. The platform lets you build apps by linking together AI models like ChatGPT, Midjourney, and 11 Labs. Eventually will integrate with software like Gmail, Trello, and Salesforce, so you can use AI to automate every function in your organization. To get notified when we launch and be one of the first to build on the platform, you can join the waitlist at aibox.ai. The link is in the show notes. We are currently raising a seed round of funding. If you're an investor that is focused on disruptive tech, I'd love to tell you more about the platform. You can reach out to me at jaden@aibox.ai. I'll leave that email in the show notes. On a recent podcast episode, I made the statement that a lot of the really successful AI applications and new projects that we're seeing right now are actually old ones that have been in the works for a while, and now they're releasing, either they're finally launching or they're releasing some sort of AI integration that makes their product a lot more viable. Today on the podcast, I want to talk about one of those, which I think is very interesting. It is called Glean. And what's interesting about Glean is while it kind of is coming onto the stage as being mainstream, it's already raised over $100 million and it has a $1 billion valuation. And that was a while ago that it did that. So I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to break down exactly what it does and why this is important for enterprises and how this is going to be beneficial. So I think essentially what this is originally it was just like a search bot for enterprises where it could search through enterprises' data and help, get answers for people that are querying them very quickly about a company in particular. But now with the advent of ChatGPT and the abilities that we have with AI, they've made this thing a lot more powerful, and they have a language input where you can ask questions in a lot more native manner and get a lot of really powerful responses. So what this really does is it gives you the ability to have really actionable insights and very precise answers for work-related questions around your company. So it can help you to analyze documents across Slack, Google Drive, Gmail, Office, and a bunch of others. It can then help you to compile all of the insights from that data, and then it can answer your questions using internal information. So I think one thing that is really great about this company is that it makes sure it does not use your data to train its algorithm. Obviously, that is pretty critical for companies nowadays, and even ChatGPT and OpenAI have products that help you do that, partnering with Microsoft Azure. So essentially, it's like ChatGPT, but it works across your entire internal organization and with all the information that you have in your workplace. So how it does this, like I was mentioning, is that this is able to connect to things like your company's Slack, your company's Drive, your company's Gmail, all of the different third-party softwares, including your like Salesforce that your company or a company might use. it has all of that data integrated or collected through an API. Then you're able to query that data. And they've done a couple really interesting things with that. I mean, aside from just being able to kind of analyze this massive body of data, they've also made it so they're able to set permissions. So, if only the CFO or the people in the finance department have access to or should have access to certain documents, you're able to set those permissions so not everybody can go and get information and, potentially leak or find out information about your company that they shouldn't. So I think what's really interesting is in Glean's kind of in their demo, they have a bunch of examples. So you can say something like, what's going on with the Nexa Tech deal? That was one of their examples. And then it has this whole breakdown of what's going on, with this one particular deal. You can say, has anyone that is working on that deal, or has anyone from this particular deal submitted support tickets? And you can see the support tickets they've submitted. You can say like, who is the point of contact on this particular deal? Who's the salesperson over there? Who's the person in charge of integrating? Blah, blah, blah. So you can really quickly get, and you can also break this down by like number size. So it's like, tell me which company that uses us submits the most support tickets, and that is, that is an account over like $250,000, right? Ones that might be important to your organization, and it can break that down, who they are, what their support tickets are, connects to Jira and all that. So I think honestly, this is a really powerful tool, because coming as someone that my first job working at a corporation, there was a lot of time that I spent trying to figure out, who is in charge of what at a company, where to access different files, getting caught up to speed. And I think this really brings down the entire onboarding process for people, because any questions you might have about an organization, who's in charge of what's going on with what deal, you can really quickly grab that information here and report it. And in addition to that, a lot of my first, that job I mentioned, a lot of what I was doing there was working on, like doing reports and looking at, what was happening with sales data, what products were popular, what products were being used, what products were getting a lot of engagement on social media, et cetera, et cetera. And having something like this where I could quickly query without having to download these massive spreadsheets or create, complex pivot tables and all sorts of things to extract the data. This is a very, very powerful tool in my opinion. So I think this is going to make some big moves. But I do think that it is interesting. This company is already on their Series C. So they've raised $100 million, but they launched back in, I believe, 2021. So obviously before ChatGPT was around. And I think that they are just a really smart company that has really quickly kind of grabbed onto this new technology and been able to help them scale it. So the company Glean Chat says that it's the only platform that works across apps and knowledge sources like Microsoft 360, Google Workspace, Salesforce, Jira, GitHub, and around, I think they have like 100 other applications on there. And it also delivers answers that are personalized for relevance to each user, and they follow all real-time enterprise data permission governance rules like I was mentioning earlier. So I think this is a very powerful tool for any organization in getting information. And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. What they're able to get now is only going to increase. The functionality is only going to increase. And I think in the next year or two, we're going to have some really, really powerful tools within companies and outside of companies to get answers on some very specific stuff. One very interesting use case that I would love to see, I highly doubt that we'll see this very soon, but something that I think this kind of technology would be really powerful for. Imagine, number one, I think this helps transparency in a company immensely. You can get a lot of really interesting data and information from your company without having to go through, long chains of command. But imagine if you had something like this set up with a federal government for whatever country that you live in. And imagine if, unclassified data was all stored in here. And instead of having to go here in the US, we have to do what are called these information, it's the Freedom of Information Act, I think, where essentially journalists can go ask for information on certain things, and the government's like, essentially they have to give you information on it. Now, a lot of the time they're going to redact, if it's classified, they won't, or they redact a lot of information on the report. So for example, for, JFK, the president that was assassinated here in the US, if you ask for information on that, they'll send you a paper, but half of it is redacted, meaning it's just blacked out, and they won't tell you like all the information in those reports. So I think it would be interesting for a lot of more general things that aren't quite so highly sensitive. I mean, I'm all for making everything publicly available, public transparency. But for a lot of stuff that, there's not this big question of like, is this our nuclear secrets or something? I think this would be incredible in a federal government level if citizens were able to, or journalists were able to go and query a database like Glean for the government, find out a lot of different information about it and get a lot of different answers without having to go through lengthy chains of command. I think that would be very cool. The transparency would be awesome. But in any case, who knows if that or when that would ever happen. But we are seeing this in enterprises, and I think this is a very powerful technology and tool to continue following into the future.
If you are looking for an innovative and creative community of people using ChatGPT, you need to join our ChatGPT creators community. I'll drop a link in the description to this podcast. We'd love to see you there, where we share tips and tricks of what is working in ChatGPT. It's a lot easier than a podcast, as you can see screenshots, you can share and comment on things that are currently working. So if this sounds interesting to you, check out the link in the comment. We'd love to have you in the community.
Thanks for tuning in to the AI Hustle podcast. If you could do us a massive favor, we would really, really appreciate it if you could leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. This helps people find the podcast. It helps people know this is a good place to go. And we would really, really appreciate it, as it helps us continue to bring on incredible guests and share incredible content for you to listen to.